Everyone has come across a rough and uncomfortable coaster before. An amazing coaster with a good layout can be ruined if it has any sort of rough experience. In fact, I think uncomfortability of a coaster is one of the #1 reasons why most of the coasters on the lower end of my rankings are there. However, there are some things you can do to help improve your experience on the rougher coasters you decide to ride. So in today's video, I'm going to share some of the best tricks to get the most comfortable experience on rough coasters. The rough ride experience is handled differently on wood and steel coasters, so first I'm going to cover wood coasters. The preparation starts before even entering the queue. If you're super invested into coasters, then you might know when the wooden coaster opened, or if it's well maintained by the park. If it's a newer and well maintained coaster, you generally don't have to worry about it being rough. But if it's an older ride and you still want to get the credit, you might want to use some of these tips. The next tip is when you choose your row. In general, you may want to sit towards the front because the back can be a little more rough, especially the very back row. More specifically though, you're going to want to take note and understand wheel seats. A wheel seat is when the row you're sitting in lands on the part of the car where a wheel is directly under you, causing you to have a rougher ride. In order to get the smoothest experience possible, you're going to want to do your best to avoid wheel seats. On most older and classic wooden coasters, you're going to find two types of trains, the 2-seat and the 3-seat cars. For the 3-seat cars, it's pretty easy to identify the non-wheel seat. You're going to want to sit in the middle of the car, right here. Because the other 2 seats have wheels underneath them, the middle row is going to be the smoothest experience. For a 2-seat car, it's a little more difficult, but the front of each car is smoother than the back because where you actually sit lands about right here and is as far away from a wheel area as you can get. And yes, I used a Voyage coaster cutout to show you this. But if you happen to be boarding a coaster like a GCI or Gravity Group with Millennium Flyer or Timberliner trains, then every seat is a wheel seat, so the trick doesn't really help. That's some of the biggest tricks you can do to help your experience on rougher wooden coasters. Moving on to steel coasters. They can be a little bit different. First off, 75% of steel coasters are extremely smooth and you will not need to use any of these tactics, but for the 25%, there are a few tricks that can help. The steel coasters that are rough and uncomfortable are so for different reasons than wooden coasters. You can still try to identify wheel seats on steel coasters and avoid them to try and get a smoother ride, but most steel coasters have a wheel on every seat, so this doesn't really help. The most common pain you get on a steel coaster is because of the head banging against the over-the-shoulder restraint. When riding a coaster where you think you might experience head banging, it's best to keep your head forward on elements and transitions that look like they might cause head banging, so that your head isn't hitting the bulky restraint. This rarely ever happens on newer steel coasters, but if you come across older ones like Aero Loopers, this method will help you get the most comfortable experience while still getting the credit. For some coasters like the Coma SLCs, you're guaranteed to have a rough and painful ride, so you kinda just have to hope for the best. There are many other factors that affect how rough and painful a coaster is, like maintenance from the park, the age of the attraction, and the ride manufacturer, etc. These are just some of the methods that I find useful to help provide the most comfortable experience possible. Let me know some of the methods that you use down in the comments below, and thanks for watching. I hope these tips help some of you out, and I'll see you in the next video.